Welcome to Kia Nero Diaries on the 28th of June. It's 35 degrees outside. We've been in a heat wave for about a week and there's no sign of it letting up. In fact, over the next few days we could see 40 degrees. So the shutters are closed and we're hiding from the sun. In fact, if I turn the light off, there you go, we're in the dark here. Until it gets a bit cooler in the evening. So anyway, welcome to those who've watched the channel before and especially to new subscribers. Now, YouTubers, we go on and on about the same old stuff, and the anti-EV crowd are just the same. They keep telling us that EV batteries don't last very long, that EVs are always bursting into flames all of a sudden, spontaneously, suffering from thermal runaway. And they also tell us that EVs are just not selling, nobody wants them, none of which is true, of course. So, of course, those of us who know the reality of owning an EV and have, in my case, 6 years or more experience of running them, need to keep telling the story. Now, on my last video, I featured a couple of Kia Neros that had reached the 500,000 kilometre mark here in France. And so we're constantly gathering information about, the good news that EVs do last a long time. They can withstand very heavy duty cycles without the batteries or the motors just falling apart. In fact, they're going way beyond the point at which an internal combustion car will be needing serious work done on its engine, its gearbox, and all those other components that, like starter motors and fuel pumps, that tend to fail. So as if more evidence were needed that EVs are much better for the long haul than any petrol or diesel car. Inside EVs this week posted that there's evidence now that EVs should be good for 20 years. Now, I don't know if you've watched Inside EVs. It's quite good. They have lots of articles. It's very US focused. But they'll give you some information like this and they'll sort of gloss over it, although they do say where they get their data from, and in this case they got it from a company called Geotab. So I thought I'll go to the source and actually read the Geotab report. So a little bit about Geotab. They are a fleet telematics company founded in the year 2000, so they've been around 25 years, and they're based in Oakville, Ontario. They have some corporate customers, quite an impressive list in the Fortune 500. You can go and look at that if you're interested. So this is a serious business, and they monitor fleets, for their customers' fleets of cars, vans, and I think trucks as well. And they say they take 80 billion data points every day from 4.7 million vehicles. Now, obviously, EVs are a relatively small part of that. But this particular report involves them monitoring 10,000 EVs over the period of more than 10 years. And they took a snapshot which they published in 2019, and then they took another snapshot in 2024. So I'm just going to read some of the stuff that they're talking about there and put that up on the screen. Just to mention that Geotab published this report in January 2025 and they updated it in May. So it's really very recently updated. So first question they ask is, how long do EV batteries last? Well, they say that when we analysed EV battery health in 2019, we found that EV batteries degraded on average at a rate of 2.3% per year. However, a new 2024 analysis reveals a significant improvement. EV batteries now degrade at an average of 1.8% per year. This improvement highlights ongoing advancements in battery technology and durability. According to Geotab research, EV batteries could last 20 years or more if degradation continues at this improved rate. This is particularly encouraging for fleet operators under pressure to reduce CO2 emissions. They go on to say, from the point of view of fleet operators, or obviously their customers are fleet operators, they say that 75% of light commercial vehicles could be replaced by comparable EVs today, and that an EV could save $15,900 per vehicle over its lifespan. I guess that's an average. They don't say what specific vehicles there are. So then they go on to talk about the effects of age on batteries, temperature, AC versus DC charging, how to best maintain the lifetime of the battery, or the capacity of the battery. So, the 20% to 80% rule. This is all stuff really we know is sort of meat and drink if you're an EV owner. And then they ask, is liquid cooling or air cooling better for EV battery longevity? Again, pretty an obvious one that. They compare the Tesla Model S. They've been looking at 2015 model Tesla Model S's, which use liquid cooling. They found that they have an average degradation of 2.3%. In contrast, a 2015 Nissan Leaf with passive air cooling shows a much higher rate at 4.2%. And there's graphs you can look at there. Then they go on to say what battery degradation is, explaining that a 60 kilowatt hour battery with a 90% state of health, in other words 10% degradation, would effectively act like a 54 kilowatt hour battery. And then there's some graphs where they have obviously pulled together all those data points, and they're looking at 11 different models of EVs and showing what they've observed in battery degradation over 5 years, although apparently their study does go further back than that. By definition, the vast majority of EVs that are on the roads, and consequently at the fleets of these companies, would have been bought in the last 5 years. So this is probably a more interesting one. Does high vehicle use impact battery degradation? Surprisingly, our research found that high-use electric vehicles do not experience significantly greater battery degradation than lower-use vehicles. This is encouraging news since EVs deliver better value when driven more frequently. The key takeaway, they say, is that you can confidently use your EVs in high-demand duty cycles without worrying about accelerated battery wear, provided they stay within their daily driving range. However, frequent use of DC fast charging for high-use vehicles may contribute to faster degradation. So there's a very good graphic here which shows how battery buffers work. So you can see that you've got a usable state of charge and then an absolute theoretical state of charge, which in the case of the e-Niro, that translates into an absolute battery size of 67.5 kilowatt hours and a usable battery size of 64 kilowatt hours. How does the buffer effect influence battery life? The buffer effect is designed to protect EV batteries from degradation by preventing them from charging too high or discharging too low. Automakers use these buffers to extend battery life, with larger buffers meaning less available energy for driving but a slower degradation rate. For example, a Chevrolet Volt, now discontinued, employed larger top and bottom buffers which dynamically adjusted as the battery aged. This design resulted in slower than average battery degradation, demonstrating the benefit of these buffers in extending battery life. So that kind of data coming from a prestigious telematics company covering 10,000 vehicles over a long period of time is very useful. But of course, we still don't really know what the aging effects of EV batteries are. Now, I've got some of these things that I bought 15 years ago, and obviously charging cycles is not the issue with these, but age is. And I can tell you, I've got, there's some are Duracell, some are other makes, but some of them are 15 years old and they still work perfectly fine. I think I've had one or two failures where they've completely died. And this is the interesting thing. The last pack of these that I bought, I think there were 4, and the peak voltage, fully charged voltage of the batteries does vary very slightly. So there are manufacturing anomalies at the cell level which will affect the pack over time. So every pack will be slightly different, I guess. And we don't really know, as I say, what a Kia Niro will look like at 10, 15 or 20 years yet. But the degradation thing I found quite interesting, and that they're saying that their latest sample averages out at 1.8% a year. And you say, okay, well, the e-Niro has a 3.5 kilowatt hour buffer. So if in the first year I started with a theoretical battery size of 67.5 kilowatt hours, so I've got a 3.5 kilowatt hour buffer, 1.8% would bring that down after 1 year to 66.3 kilowatt hours. And by the second year, it would bring it down to just over 65 kilowatt hours. And after 3 years, it would be just below 64 kilowatt hours. Now, if that had continued on, I'm sure I would be noticing some loss of range. And this is the thing, that, you know, battery state of health is an objective thing that can be measured by plugging an OBD device in and using some software and actually, you know, looking at the cell voltages and seeing what the real pack size is at any moment in time. But you know, the range of the vehicle is very subjective, and obviously it depends, you know, on if it's winter or summer, and very few people charge to 100% that often. But when you do, you look at it and you say, has that gone down? Well, I'm not really seeing it yet. And we're in the 7th year of use of the car. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting. Got to keep bashing away there at the anti-EV boys, because they seem to make some money from doing this, and, well, whatever floats your boat, I suppose. Anyway, until the next time.